Joe Rogan said that Adesanya and Paulo Costa were going to coach the next Ultimate Fighter. The reason I say Joe Rogan said, I found that very interesting. Joe Rogan is not the guy that breaks news, but if there was anybody that has inside info that could break news, it would be Joe Rogan. So when I tell you Joe Rogan said it, I might as well just tell you Adesanya and Paulo Costa are going to coach the next Ultimate Fighter, but that's very interesting because Paulo Costa's been through that. He's a very knowledgeable guy with a very interesting team. Israel Adesanya is a tremendously large personality. And I like the direction that the Ultimate Fighter has been in for a number of years. I don't love where it started out, pranks being pulled on one another and, contaminating and vandalizing your opposing team's locker room or messing with their food in the house. That kind of stuff was a little bit weird and childish for me. But I would also encourage that Paulo Acosta do his absolute best to keep it where it is now, straight up competition. The only thing that's a reality show about this is it is a show, and the reality is we are filming it. The same as the Super Bowl, the same as the Olympics. This is the toughest tournament in all of sports. And I would encourage them not to lose sight of that because something tells me that Adesanya is not the guy that you want to get into a verbal warfare with on a daily basis. Those guys should keep a level of separation. We don't need tension between them. We need to wait for that. Let them go out, let them coach, let them help the other guys. Let's see how all of that goes. I'm in for the drama any way that it goes. I'm just suggesting for you have two totally different personalities here. In a fisticuffs, go ahead and argue it out. In a verbal debate, I think you get what I'm saying here. I mean, in all fairness, there's something there. I have to tell you some other gem that I picked up on. If I'm dropping gems here, and I don't know that I just did, I guess that came out of Joe's mouth and now I'm regurgitating, but there is something to be said for rematches in this sport. And if I was to ask you guys, what rematch would you like to see the most? You would have your answers, but now let me narrow the question to go, no. Not just that you would like to see, what match realistically, which would largely mean two guys that have fought before that are still fighting to this day, that happen to be in the same weight class, still to this day. Just by example, who would you like to see fight? And someone asked, my partner Ryan asked me this earlier today. I told Ryan, I said, you know what, I'm going to make a video, I'm going to answer your question. But if I could see any rematch, I think this will surprise you, but I've always wanted to see Fedor Emelianenko versus Verdum. Always. I've always thought that match needed to be redone, and there was a lot about the way that Verdum won it the first time. Fedor had position. Fedor is a position fighter. Verdum had submission. Submissions have a lot less probability today than they did 6 years ago when that fight happened, or 16 years ago as this fight was growing, or 8 years before that when this whole industry started and nobody even knew what the guard was. So it was always one of those baffling fights. Nobody thought, that whole building went silent, just to put it in perspective for you. Your in-house focus group, which is a tremendous focus group of 10,000 live people that know enough about the sport to part with their money, show up, come in attendance, they went silent. Nobody could even believe what they saw. The whole building went quiet. The biggest upset in the history of the Olympic Games took place in 2000. An American wrestler named Rulon Gardner took on one of the biggest dope freaks in the history of sport. This guy was juiced out of his mind and got away with it, but his name was Alexander Karelin, and he had never been beaten, never lost. He was going for his third Olympic title, his 12th gold medal in a row, and had never been beaten. Cheating out of his mind, but either way had never been beaten. And when Rulon beat him, even the Americans couldn't stand up and clap and cheer and hoop and holler. Building went silent for about 3 seconds, and then the Americans, oh, this is over, and they started clapping. It's the only thing that I have ever seen with my own eyes that I could compare to the night that Verdum tapped out Fedor. And it was viewed as this big upset, and Fedor went on and did all sorts of miraculous things, and then Verdum ends up with the boys in Vegas, and he goes on and wins a world championship. It was all of these wonderful things, and it was one of those fights that we should have enjoyed at the time, but we didn't. We didn't enjoy it at the time because we didn't know Verdum had any level of chance. One of the great light heavyweight fights of all time was Gustafsson versus John Jones Part 1, but it didn't do very good numbers. Now, it didn't do very good numbers. It wasn't an anticipated fight because nobody knew that Gus had that much of a chance. So it was just one of those fights. My partner Ryan asked me, what is a rematch I would like to see? I'd like to see Fedor fight Verdum.